Regular meeting of council to order at 3 p.m. for Monday, May 8th. I'm going to ask for a motion from Councillor Walsh that council adopt the agenda for the regular council meeting May 8th as amended to add an in-camera session as item 12A.
You have my motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Barton that an omnibus motion adopts the following in accordance with Council's procedure bylaw, the April 24th, 2023 regular council meeting minutes as presented, and the strategic priorities chart.
You have my motion, Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Any public comments before we, sorry, Jenny?
On my agenda, the actual council meetings are not attached.
The minutes aren't attached?
Oh, thank you, Jenny.
Tells you how much I looked at it.
Would you like to hold that one then until next meeting, and I will make sure they're attached?
Sure. Councillor Barton, withdraw the motion.
I'll withdraw that motion.
Sounds like it wasn't just me. All in favor? Okay. I'll do it next time. Who's on my computer? Marcel has taken over my life here. What website is that? Two delegations today. The first one from MCG Careers, and Charlie's here.
Do I need to press anything here?
Nope, I think we got you, Charlie.
Beautiful.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'd like to start by thanking you all for having me here today. I just wanted to come and speak on behalf of MCG Careers and share some information about our programs and services here in the Foothills. So for anyone that's not familiar with our services, we have two locations in the Foothills here, Okotoks and High River, and we offer services, so our career and employment services, along with the two programs that I'm going to talk about a little bit more detail today. So about our career and employment centers, we serve unemployed and underemployed Albertans. We offer supportive services, and we've been in the Foothills since 2008. So we opened our center on 12th Avenue here in High River and on 87 Elizabeth Street in Okotoks 14 years ago. We are open Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 4:30 p.m., 4 p.m. on Fridays, May to August. So service highlights is we offer career coaching out of our career and employment centers, academic advising, career exploration, resume and cover letter development, exploring post-secondary options, anything that falls under that career and employment umbrella, we are there to help. We have flexible appointment options, so if we have anyone who maybe is not able to come into the center, maybe not comfortable coming into the center, we will offer coaching via phone or Zoom. And we also offer additional opportunities for networking through our interactive workshops. We have use of our computers, our printers, our photocopier at our centers. You can use at any time. And we also have access to short training courses for anyone who just needs assistance getting between that. I want to get back into work, but I just need that certification to get me there. They're often tied to employment offers, but somebody needs that first aid certification, forklift, a lot of those safety tickets. We can provide support in order to get those, so we have access to funding for those. And all of those services are offered at no cost to anybody that comes through our doors. In addition to our two centers here, we offer outreach services. So we have a career coach that travels to Claresholm, Vulcan, Nanton, and Diamond Valley once a week to offer our one-on-one services as needed. So they just give us a call and we'll schedule to go down and spend some time with them. In addition, we like to support our local employers. So we have a free no-cost job board online and in our centers. If an employer is maybe experiencing some challenges finding the right staff or just accessing the job seekers, we're happy to host employer spotlights where they come into our center. We offer interviewing space. We're also happy to offer any guidance or support of anyone that may be struggling with that hiring process, what that looks like. So that's kind of an overview of our services, but I also mentioned 2 programs. We have our job placement program that runs primarily out of our Okotoks office, but has access to any job seeker in our region. And it is more of an advanced job search support. So it's really customized, one-on-one, and it's 12 weeks in length. And you work one-on-one very closely with our job placement coach and involve all those, tailored resumes and cover letters for positions, preparing for interviews that are coming up, access to local employers and community partners. So we want to work really closely with our businesses to let them know that when we have a candidate, we can send them their way. And then through that program, we also offer support for job retention during the first 90 days of employment for both the employer and the job seeker to try to maximize success for both. So that program is eligible to anyone that's over 18, is unemployed and underemployed, and they are ready to work. So this program is really designed for people that are ready to start work now and just need that assistance getting into the labor force. This program also has access to those short-term courses that I spoke about. We have that pool of funding listed on my slide here. I also have like ProServe and SelfSafe is another example of how we may support people in getting into the industries they choose. And then our second program I'd like to share is our Experience Counts program. This is designed for individuals who are between the ages of 45 and 68 and are looking either career change, getting back into the workforce, just maybe experiencing some challenges getting into the workforce. And this is a program that's ran out of our High River location. It has 3 components: personal development, career services, and the retention support, similar to our job placement. So there's 6 weeks of workshops attached to this program where they come into our office and we cover a variety of topics. And that's, it could be managing job search stress, developing resumes, building confidence. We also do workshops on Excel, Word, PowerPoint, the hard skills that will assist them in their new position. So some technology that we cover on that piece as well. And then again, they have their no cost service. They work with their coach. We continue that job search from day one they enter the program. So we never ask somebody to put their job search on hold because that's the ultimate goal, right? We want to find employment. So we're supporting them throughout those workshops to get connected with the local labor market and get into the job that they desire, and then work with them during those 90 days to ensure success. Also access to those short-term courses. A benefit of this program is it's a small group size. So 6 to 8 people is what we work with. So it's really one-on-one and targeted to what the individual will most benefit from. We have some local employer connections that we've highlighted, and these are, a small part of a fairly large list, and we're always looking for continuing partnerships and some opportunities that we've had. So we've worked closely with our local libraries, Foothills Advocacy in Motion, Rowan House Society, and some positions have, we've supported people in finding positions in shipping, receiving, retail, labor, to server, healthcare aid, management positions, kind of anything in between. So no matter what you're looking for, we're happy to provide the support that you need. Maybe you're not sure what you want to do, and then that's where you would start with one of our career coaches. And we go through and assess what's your skills, what your interest. We have a number of tools and resources that we use to help people make informed decisions about what their next step will be. So the invitation today is for anyone who may be interested in or know somebody that may benefit from our services to give us a call. I've left some information on a slide here, but also to share with council so we know that we're here and ready to serve. So they can reach us at either our Okotoks or High River location, and then we can help them determine where is best fit from there. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Charlie. Any questions from council? Councillor Jones?
Thank you for that. It was very interesting. I just have a question about, do you have access to programs if you found somebody was sort of entrepreneurial and wanted maybe, to start something or business development? of their own? Do you have access to that kind of stuff?
So what we do is we work really closely with our community partners. So oftentimes what we may do is support them with connecting with Community Futures Highwood, who could support them with that next step in their journey if that's what they're looking to do once they've determined that they're looking to do that.
Perfect, thank you.
No problem.
Councillor Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Curious about the workshops. How often do you offer them? Is there a range? Is it online? What is the scope?
So we've actually just launched our computer basics workshop because we knew that there was a need. So right now, we actually starting tomorrow morning, we'll have our first series in Okotoks. So that's a series of 5 workshops that covers Word, Excel, Google Workspace, right down to navigating the online job boards. And, you know, what does an applicant tracking system mean? Where does your resume go when you apply online? All those pieces. And we're actually, our workshops we have scheduled with the communities we serve at the library. So we try to do 3 in each community a season. So a season would be some September to December or January to June. But we're open to whatever works best for the community. So if we had, you know, 2 or 3 people saying, I could really use this workshop, we're happy to work with whomever and make that happen. And we have a variety of topics all under that career and employment umbrella. No problem.
No other questions. Thanks very much, Charlie.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next delegation, we have Dr. Alex Fay and Dr. Kelly Taylor here. I'm sure everybody saw in the High River Times there are a number of doctors in High River and area have penned a letter to the government basically, and not so much directly to the government but to our communities, just sounding the alarm bell as to kind of the state of our physicians' accessibility is that. So I'll just hand it over to Dr. Fay and we'll go from there. Thanks, Alex.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us today. Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. Thank you, members of council. Thank you for having us. I guess perhaps to start, I would just kind of introduce myself and kind of the areas of practice that I work in the community, and then I'll hand it over to Kelly to chat in turn. So I'm a local family physician. I live here in High River. My wife's High River is her hometown. She's a family physician here as well. And I work at the Charles Clark Health Center, which is a large primary care clinic in the Charles Clark building. There's 15 physicians that work there. I'm also one of the medical directors of that clinic. And then I also work at the hospital in the emergency department, and then in our inpatient ward as well.
Hi, I'm Kelly Taylor, and like Alex, I work doing family practice at Charles Clark Clinic, and I share a family practice there with my husband, who also is one of the local family doctors. We live in High River, just like Alex. I do maternity, and I'm the president of the High River Maternity Clinic here in town, and I also do oncology, GP oncology at the High River Cancer Clinic here in town as well.
In terms of a kind of a jumping off point for our discussion, I'd maybe look for some direction from you guys, but I'd be happy to read the letter aloud into the record, and then we could just go from there, or we could operate on the assumption that everyone's read it and up to date with that. So do you have a preference one way?
No, I think let's read the letter.
Sure.
And get it. Just another way to help you get it out there, Alex.
Sure. So I'll just go ahead and just read through our letter here. Just so you know, this was published in the Nanton News, the High River Times, and the Western Wheel. And so it's been shared fairly widely, and then it's also been shared on social media upwards of 800 times. We write to you as physicians working at the High River Hospital to express our concern with the state of healthcare in our community. Our healthcare system is significantly stressed. It is difficult to find a family physician accepting new patients in our community, and patients are experiencing long wait times in our emergency room, often reaching 5 hours or more. There is now a shortage of family physicians in High River. Over the last 3 years, nearly a quarter of our physicians have changed or left their practice due to illness, retirement, or burnout. Our hospital has been faced with the possibility of closures in both our emergency department and inpatient ward due to a shrinking number of local physicians. Recent closures have been averted by having our local physicians arrange their schedules or convincing physicians from Calgary to provide coverage. In 2024, we anticipate dozens or more closures of our emergency room and the equivalent of months without physicians to provide care to patients admitted to hospital. Care at the High River Maternity Clinic has also been under stress due to staffing challenges. The maternity clinic has been struggling to recruit new physicians for several years. We've lost 2 out of 3 local obstetricians and now rely on a single obstetrician to provide 24/7 coverage with few breaks. With several other rural communities recently losing their maternity services, we worry that we are on the same path. In our community, the majority of care provided in our hospital emergency room, maternity, and inpatient ward is provided by local family doctors. For this reason, potential closures are directly linked to a shortage of family doctors in a community and the primary care they deliver. There's overwhelming evidence that adequate primary care delivered by a trained family physician, and I would stress that, a trained family physician, not only saves money to the health system, it increases longevity and overall well-being. As patients lose access to comprehensive primary care with a trusted family doctor, more people end up in the ER or hospital. An ER visit costs many times what it does in your local family doctor's office for the same issue, not to mention the huge cost of hospitalization. Lack of timely access to care can also result in delayed diagnosis and treatment and worse prognosis for many conditions, including many cancers. Unfortunately, help is unlikely to arrive soon. Medical student interest in primary care as a career is at an all-time low. Alberta in particular has struggled to recruit and retain medical learners with an unprecedented 22 family medicine training spots in Alberta empty this year following the medical training match. This accounts for 81% of all vacant family medicine spots Canada-wide, excluding Quebec. Recent strained relations between the Alberta government and physicians has likely played a large role in the province's struggles to recruit family physicians. In High River, we pride ourselves on being a training hub to both medical students and residents. Of late, we have been disappointed to see a lack of interest in our community from these learners, as local clinics have unsuccessfully been trying to recruit new family physicians for over 3 years. None of this should come as a surprise, as in the last several years, rural primary care in Alberta has been inadequately funded, prioritized, and supported. This has sent the message to current and prospective family physicians that they are not valued. Furthermore, reported government and HS initiatives have mostly focused on surgical and hospital-based interventions rather than prevention. This seems to prioritize the crisis in our hospitals rather than the factors that led to it, namely a lack of accessible primary care. We need our government to properly fund, prioritize, and support primary care. Regardless of who wins the upcoming election, we need advocacy to make quality and sustainable rural healthcare a priority. We believe that everyone deserves to have access to a family physician, and that without strong and sustainable primary care, rural healthcare will fail. Thank you. Yeah, I think that letter hopefully summarizes where things are at and where things are headed. I think kind of from that letter, there's a number of different questions that easily come to mind. One question is, can this be averted? Is there anything that be done to stop this from happening? It looks like we're barreling towards a brick wall at 100 miles per hour. Can we stop? Can we turn? Can we put the brakes on to avoid that? Quite frankly, I think the answer is no. That's a scary answer to give you folks. It should be scary to the citizens of our community. This is not an issue that's isolated to High River only. This is happening in primary care and especially in our healthcare system, and especially in our rural hospitals all over Alberta. And I think the trend that we're going to see in the near future, in the next year to 2 years, is that there's going to be increasing closures of rural hospitals all over this province. Unfortunately, unless you're in one of these affected communities, you may not know about these closures. And you may not know that this is happening all over Alberta, in Ponoka, in Strathmore, in Airdrie Urgent Care, in Didsbury, but it's already happening and is happening at a quicker and quicker pace over the last year to year and a half. On a regular basis, as physicians, we receive call-outs from affected communities, probably on a monthly basis, saying, here's some shifts that we have no coverage for these shifts at this respective hospital or urgent care. Is anybody interested in picking up these shifts? And we're getting those emails more and more often. And these aren't places that are far afield. These aren't, we're not talking about Viking, Alberta. We're not talking about, Lac La Biche or places that are a long drive from a metropolitan center. We're talking about Strathmore Emergency Department. We're talking about Didsbury. We're talking about Airdrie. These are places that are commutable from Calgary easily, just like High River is. If High River is experiencing these issues, and again, some of our physicians live in Calgary and commute out to High River on a regular basis, if we are having a hard time recruiting physicians, it paints a very bleak picture for any communities who are farther afoot. This is a beautiful community, and I count myself fortunate to live here. But if we can't recruit from a large adjacent community like Calgary, it's going to be very hard for other communities. It's going to be much more dire. And so I don't know that this can be averted. As part of this advocacy piece that we're presenting to you today, we conducted a poll of the physicians who are currently working at our hospital and said, looking forward to next year, do you plan on doing more, the same, or less next year? What can we anticipate in terms of the services that our current physicians will be able to provide for the next year? And understand that our scheduling is done in about October for the next calendar year, okay? And in this poll, with regards to those providing care at in our inpatient ward, so patients admitted to hospital, 25% said that they're planning to do less. Okay, so a quarter of our physicians plan on doing less. At least one physician has said that they plan on retiring. Zero physicians have said that they plan on doing more. With regards to our emergency department, it was a smaller number that said that they plan on doing less, but there certainly is at least a few physicians who said that they plan on doing less, and 0 physicians said that they planned on doing more. We have had, as I mentioned in the letter, we've had threatened closures of both our emergency department and our inpatient ward several times this year already. And those were holes that we knew we were going to have when we did planning in this past October. A very small number of holes, and thankfully all those holes have been filled, but many of them at the last minute. And in some cases begging physicians from Calgary to come and fill those holes. And we came very close to closing our emergency department. We would have had about 12 hours notice to close it, and a physician who has no affiliation with this hospital, never been to High River before, said that they would do it at the last minute, and that was only upon Alberta Health Services offering a $1,000 in addition to what they would normally bill the government for services. And to our physicians who have been filling these holes earlier in the year in other ways, it's kind of a slap in the face to say, okay, well, you're going to bring somebody in who has no connection to this community to fill the hole, and you're going to pay them a bunch of money. And meanwhile, we're just trying to fill these holes to keep our hospital going, because we value our hospital and we value the community that we work in. And that was not particularly well received by the physicians here, as you might imagine. It kind of sent the wrong tone that, look, why are we trying? If this is our thanks, so that was disappointing to see. But as I mentioned, there are some big issues with recruitment in Alberta. Alberta has paid physicians well compared to other provinces. I don't think that I think it's very clear that this is not a financial issue. I think it's a respect issue. And I think you can point back to 2020, when just prior to the COVID pandemic, our provincial government tore up, unilaterally tore up the collectively bargained agreement between physicians and the province, and then also made a number of unilateral changes to physician funding. Yes, there has been a new physician agreement between the province and physicians, but what we've seen is that graduating residents, so future doctors, they're not coming to Alberta. So, like I mentioned, 81% of all the vacancies Canada-wide are in Alberta, excluding Quebec. Okay, so there's French language programs in Quebec, and if you're not, francophone or functionally bilingual, you obviously can't go there. There was 3 vacancies in Ontario, 3 vacancies in the Maritimes, 0 in Manitoba, 0 in Saskatchewan, 0 in BC, and 22 in Alberta. I think it's tempting to look at that number and say, well, maybe this is just an anomaly. But here I just kind of have a graphic, and you don't need to see the numbers, but you can see the trend. That's not an anomaly, that's a trend, and what it shows is that there's a graphic showing empty spots from the training match from 2016 to present, and in Alberta, so that's Alberta specific, and it's showing that those unfilled spots are going up year after year after year after year. And so that's very concerning. That means that help is not on the horizon to replace physicians that are burnt out or retiring or leaving, and these new doctors are not coming. High River has traditionally been a very sought after location for physicians. Dr. Taylor could tell you better than I could, but when she and her husband came here eight or 9 years ago, they had to fight to find space here. They had to work they had to wait their turn to be able to work in our emergency department and our inpatient ward and find space to work in a clinic. And the same thing for me and my wife when we came here a few years ago now. We had to fight. The Charles Clark Health Clinic tore out offices to put in another exam room so that they could accommodate my wife and I and another 2 physicians who were coming. There have been 0 physicians recruited in 3 years. We are one of the largest, Pincher Creek and High River are the 2 largest rural medical training sites for the University of Calgary for their medical school students, so their clerks as we call them, and for residents. And so we get a lot of residents and we get a lot of people coming here and they get hands-on experience, and we have an amazing medical staff. We have amazing nursing staff. We have amazing allied staff at our hospital. I think we have a great clinic and a beautiful facility. But these medical students, these learners, these residents are choosing not to come here when previously they had to fight to be here. That should be very scary.
And it is. So, Dr. Fay, we're not getting students to choose to come. Like your stat of 81% of Canadian doctor vacancies exist in Alberta. Like that's a major red flag as to what we're doing in this province. And so the students coming out of the U of C are not choosing to do their practicums and things in Alberta. They're going elsewhere to finish those off. Is that right?
Yes. I understand. I think one could assume, and it would be a wrong assumption, one could assume, well, maybe we don't have good programs. Maybe we don't do a good job training doctors in Alberta.
We know that's
not the case at all. We have amazing training programs. The training programs here, I think, are some of the best in Canada, and they're excellent programs. It's not a matter of a lack of programs. It's that these residents, these graduating medical students, are choosing to go elsewhere. So this past year, there's a program where medical students can come and do some of their last year of their medical training in a rural community. High River is one of those communities. And so we take on these students because it's great, because a lot of the research would show that the more people that train rurally, the more people practice rurally.
I was one of those students. I did my clerkship here in medical school, so I spent 2012 here working longitudinally for 9 months, and I loved it.
That you're receiving, is that right?
I-
So they're looking at, take BC has a new program out, right? That's really attractive to a lot of doctors. So they're choosing to go do their training in BC because they can see that if they stay there, there's long-term viability after they're full-blown doctors, and you choose to live here, there. Am I making any sense at all?
I mean, I think Dr. Taylor and I would probably have different answers, and we're trying to get in the mindsets of other people who are making different decisions. I don't think that this is a financial aspect. You're very correct that there's the government of BC has made huge attempts to say, hey, we need primary care. If we don't have primary care, we don't have a health system. It's going to cost us more money because we're going to see more people in our emergency department. We're going to see more hospitalizations because people don't have access to primary care. And so they invested a lot of money. But Alberta still pays physicians very well. I truly think it's a respect issue of where people want to practice in a health system where they feel valued, where they feel wanted, where they feel ultimately respected. Do I think that there's a financial aspect to it? Of course there is. If someplace else is going to offer more money, potentially there's going to be a financial aspect to it. But Alberta, at the end of the day, still probably provides better financial compensation than most other provinces.
Okay, so if this is a respect issue, and you're saying the finances are there, where did the disrespect start from? Is this fallout from Tyler Shandro and what he did just prior to COVID? No, I'm serious, because there's huge lasting impacts to what he did in picking that fight. Him and Kenny picked the fight with the doctors.
Oh, for sure.
If you remember, it was 2019,
It was 2020.
2020
Is
that he did that.
months prior to the declaration of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah, and that was getting rid of what do they call it, critical cases or whatever.
As Alex mentioned, they destroyed our agreement unilaterally. They basically tore it up and abandoned all of the previously negotiated agreement between the Alberta Medical Association and the government, and so that certainly left a sour taste.
Absolutely.
For sure.
So there's where it's a respect thing, but there's no trust coming out of the doctors that you're going to be taken care of in this province, because nobody knows what the next.
I think it's easy for medical students and residents to pick up on a lot of these perceptions, right? They hear their preceptors, right, as staff at the hospital and the clinics talking about this and talking about burnout and talking about the lack of, docs to cover last minute shifts, and they're saying, I don't want to be a part of this. I'm going elsewhere.
No, and then you're here in BC
Exactly.
that's showing we value our doctors.
Yeah.
Guess where
We
you're
don't-
going to go? You're
We
choosing
don't get
where
that
you.
perception.
It's. All right. This is needs to be an absolute election issue, and that's why we all agreed that now's the time to kind of get this out there and make it happen. There's no better time than right now to do that, and I'm going to get going into council questions here just in a second, but you're writing that letter that you just read and putting it into the newspapers is absolutely fantastic. And last night, strangely enough, I ended up in the ER, so I was bored. So I fired it off to Barry Morishita with the Alberta Party. I know Rachel Notley's lead advisor on her campaign, so Cheryl has that now. And I also texted the premier, so that I know she's very busy with the fires up north, but I also texted it to her, and got a direct answer back from the premier that I'm still filtering through. I don't really want to, I've got more questions to go back to her with on what she told me, but before I say anything publicly about it.
The only other thing that I would add to that is, you know, the reason that we decided to reach out to the public is first and foremost to let people know what's coming down the pipe. Again, if you're not in these communities that's have already been affected, you may not know that this is a huge issue in our rural hospitals. And secondly, we've tried to address this through the avenues that we have through Alberta Health Services. You know, Alberta Health Services, I think our hospitals here in Alberta are great. I think the frontline care that they provide is world class and is amazing. However, Alberta Health Services, it's a large organization. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's Alberta's largest employer. And so we have tried to go through that process at Alberta Health Services and say, hey, this is what's going on. Like, this is an emergent situation. This is really scary for the folks in our community and in our surrounding communities. What can we do about this? And the answer was, well, this is kind of happening everywhere, and we don't have a way to really address this.
No, that's unacceptable.
That was the response that we got, and in reading kind of between the lines from our conversation, it was that unless there is political will to change the current state of affairs, things will not change. And so that's why we felt we needed to go directly to the public and speak directly to the public about what's going on, in hopes that as we enter this election and beyond this election, that rural primary care and rural health care as a whole is a priority for people in this community. That people are saying, we need strong health care in our community. We don't want to be driving to Calgary and when we think we're having a heart attack. You know, if you were having a heart attack and you live here in High River, you don't want to drive by a great hospital that has a physician and nursing staff and all the tests that you need to drive, you know, a half an hour down the road to get the care and attention that you need.
I got so much to say, but I'm going to move on to other councilors here. Councilor Nychuk.
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. First of all, in the formality of having this come to record, can I first make a motion that we don't generally do this, but can we make a motion, or can I make a motion to adopt the letter as information so that we formally have it on record that way as well? I know that's not our common practice, but in this case, I would like to put that motion forward. And then I have some questions, talking points.
Okay, motion on the floor to adopt Dr. Fay's letter that he read as information. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Great move, Mike.
Thanks for taking that. It's not, like I said, not something common we do, but in this case, I felt it was important. I got a million questions.
Sure.
And I'm not going to answer them all because everybody wants a chance to talk. I'm not convinced that this was a political faux pas that brought us into this situation, but I'm looking at it more from the side of, you said this isn't a funding thing, a remuneration thing. Can I ask you, do you guys think you're paid fairly? I don't want your personal finances, but as doctors in the rural setting, would you say, there's only two of you here, there's not every rural doctor that's in Alberta in this room, but would you say you're paid fairly, or do you feel you're underpaid?
You know, that's a very difficult question to ask,
I know,
right?
but
if you I think anywhere you work, if you don't feel respected, you would never make it enough.
right.
And I think part of the way And what makes it also complicated is part of the way that you show your, appreciation, I guess, for work is through remuneration, right? And
Well, that's one way, sure.
it is one way, right? No, I mean, but that's what I'm saying. It kind of complicates it. I'm very happy with my income, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying doctors get paid too much.
No,
God, for what you guys
sure.
do. I don't know what you get paid because I'm not a doctor. I run a business, but you're worth all the money in the world for what you do. I'm just trying to determine where the problem is coming, and it's this one question hits me. If we've got 22 positions in the province for residency, are those?
So those are unfilled positions.
Yeah, unfilled.
right?
Yeah. Is that all for rural? Is that
Uh,
22 all rural, or is that some city stuff too?
It's for the city as well, so that's all the positions in the province. You understand that the rural training sites are much smaller than the urban training sites. But yeah, a significant amount of those are in the University of Calgary rural training site in Medicine Hat.
Okay.
Multiple of their positions are unfilled. I'd have to bring up the exact number to answer.
Because to advocate for the right solution, which obviously we have a problem, it's determining what that problem is and what's the one burning question. There's always one thing, no matter what you're dealing with, there's always one thing that's the top thing, the priority. And I'm hearing that people don't want to come here. So why don't they want to come here? Alberta's a pretty cool place to be.
Agreed.
The only thing that's hitting me is we've got young people that don't get driver's licenses now. They don't drive cars. They're young people. They want to live in highly densified areas where they have accessibility to things that are very convenient. We're not that far from Calgary. Those of us that live here know we can drive to the airport in 50 minutes and be on a plane to wherever we want to go to. We're not out in the sticks by any means, but to me it seems, and I've got a son in university now. It seems they've got a different perception of lifestyle. And I'm wondering if that is a purveying factor in maybe what we're seeing, especially in situations like this where we're not essentially a rural community. Yes, we're rural in terms of our closeness to Calgary, I guess, but we've got a lot of amenities, right? We're in the backyard of Calgary. You can do whatever the heck you want. It's right there. But I'm wondering if it's lifestyle and amenities that new doctors are looking at and weren't enamored with High River like you two were. Because I mean, I think that's the story of a lot of us that didn't grow up here. Mm-hmm. We found High River by whatever serendipitous means we found it, and we got here and we went, wow, this is really cool. I want to live here. And we've obviously lost that. So why did we lose it and how do we gain it back? And I'm not looking for the answer, but I'm wondering if maybe the young physicians that you're talking to or the residents that are coming up are expressing any of that about why they're choosing locations other than places like High River, Alberta.
I would invite Dr. Taylor's answer as well, but lifestyle is always an issue when you're choosing to set up a career somewhere, and traditionally that has been a major issue for rural physicians. We're so close to Calgary that a number of our colleagues live in Calgary. They live in South Calgary. They have all those amenities. They choose to come work here because it offers a really unique and diverse practice. And so, I think High River is one of the least likely rural hospitals and rural communities to struggle from that inability to enjoy the lifestyle that somebody might want, because it's open to you. And there's been a number of physicians who live in South Calgary or live in Calgary who, as the medical director of the Charles Clark Health Clinic, I've approached and said, great, you don't have to move. It's a half an hour commute. You can your spouse can keep their job in the city. You can keep all the great amenities. We need you here to work in our community. And no, they're not coming. And to your point about generational changes, perhaps, but truly this appears to be a uniquely Alberta issue. Again, the the financial compensation offered to physicians in Alberta has traditionally been much higher than other provinces. So I don't think that this is a financial issue. And if you look at the numbers of unfilled seats, it's like, it's pretty evident that it continues to go up from 2020 forward. And so I really think it is a respect issue. And when I say it's a respect issue, I'm not trying to say, oh, you know, our population, our community should vote in X way. No, I'm saying that there's been a fundamental breakdown in trust between physicians and government. And whoever wins the election needs to do something to repair that trust. I don't know what that looks like. I'm not in the heads of every physician in this province, but I fundamentally do believe that it is a breakdown in trust and respect. And you can, you know, that can come from one place, it can come from a multitude of different places. But I truly believe that that's the issue. It's not that we don't have great training programs. It's not a financial issue to a large extent. I truly believe it is a trust and respect issue.
So the trust is what?
It's wanting to work someplace where you feel like you're valued, and where you feel like you're heard, and where you feel like you can make a difference.
So then, sorry, but is it coming back to the government piece, and I didn't think I was on Mayor Snodgrass's wavelength with this, but what has happened previously, that's damaged that feeling of trust because your voice isn't being respected and heard, and you're not being a decision maker perhaps at the table or contributing to how healthcare is going forward in the province? Would that be somewhat accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, here you have a negotiated contract between two parties that has over a year to run on it. And the government took that contract and said, no, we're done now. They had to pass special legislation to be able to tear out that contract. So they sat down and they passed legislation to tear it up. And then they made numerous different changes to the funding of physicians. We're cutting this, we're cutting that, we're cutting this, we're cutting that, we're cutting this, we're cutting that, without any consultation from physicians. Immediately after that, while that fight is still going on, COVID happened. So, like, the timing is very important, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden now, oh, what we really need our healthcare system. Oh, can you guys just do a little bit more? We know that this is a deadly pandemic, and when it comes to talking about COVID with the general public, I think it's important that we're not engaging in revisionist history and saying, oh, COVID's the same now as back then. No, we're dealing with a virus that has mutated and changed, and a landscape with vaccinations and other things that has changed the kind of the impact of COVID on our world and our hospitals. So that's one thing I would say just to preface that. But COVID happened. It was an extremely stressful time for our healthcare system and for our healthcare workers. We saw hospitals in Italy absolutely overrun, where they're trying to put 4 patients on a single ventilator. And you are going to work wondering and thinking, am I bringing this home to my kids? Physicians some of our colleagues were living in their travel trailer in their front yard because they were so scared that they were going to bring this virus into their home and affect their loved ones, right? And so I think the reason I take all this time to set the stage that way is to say this is the context that is happening in. Here's this huge fight, unilateral cuts. There's a $1 billion lawsuit initiated by the Alberta Medical Association, and then COVID happens. And COVID happens for the next number of years. And there's significant burnout that happens from that mental toll of going through that and the stress involved with that. And now, that COVID is no longer the same issue that it has been, you're just dealing with a group of people that are extremely burnt out, and they just feel like, wow, what the heck just happened? We just got the crap beat out of us, and before we got the crap beat out of us, we got it beat out of us, by the province first. And so that's why I say it's a trust issue, right? And so you really have to put it in the context, like, there never has been that opportunity to really go, to really feel like, oh, hey, like, things are better now. We want to work with you to improve our health system. Yes, there has been a new agreement between the AMA and the new, and the government. I view that, the ratification of that deal by physicians, as a vote mostly for stability. For, you've had all these unilateral cuts that have had a financial impact on you, your family, your clinic, and that sort of thing. We've had inflation going through the roof, and physicians are saying, enough, like, we need some stability. And so, I think some people might point to that contract and go, well, you guys signed a contract, what's the big issue? Live with your contract. And we are. That's what Dr. Taylor and myself are doing. That's not what other people are doing. Other people are voting with their feet, and they're leaving the province, and those medical students and those medical residents, that's what they're doing. And so I think, like Dr. Taylor said previously, I think they really getting that vibe from their colleagues that they're working with in the hospital, from their preceptors, from their mentors, that, yeah, I'm struggling, I'm burnt out, and I don't feel valued here. And so that's trickling down.
Thank you, Dr. Fay. I really appreciate the context. I really do. Thank you. And sorry for me taking it down that road. I'll keep my other questions to myself. Thank you.
No, and you're going right in the right direction, Mike, because this is like any organization that anybody works for. It's here, right? We've been through that here a number of years ago, where if you get too heavy-handed with your staff, the good ones, see you later. They got lots of opportunity, a ton. And that's what's happening here, is that, and yes, it is political, because the people that make decisions that affect your lives is our government, is our elected officials. So it's 100% political. And when Minister Shandro did that, to think that's not tearing up trust, it absolutely did. And he knew it at the time. Like it was a big wannabe tough guy move, and it's just the way they operated. And Kenny was part of that. So, but you'll lose your good people, and the new doctors that we have, when I look at the new doctors that we have, why are you here, Alex? Your wife, Joanna, was born and raised here, correct? That's why you're here. Kelly, you're not from here, but you trained here and you got here. But who are our other doctors that are now here? Dr. Rehak, born and raised here. Dr. Scott McLeod, born and raised here. So if we continue to think we can rely on just breeding our own doctors, like it ain't gonna work. We cannot breed that much. Well stated, hey, Kingwood? Class act. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass, and thank you so much for being here today to bring us into this situation to understand it a lot better. I guess I have a couple questions or a couple of ideas, or I would like some clarity on. So the advocacy piece at the provincial level, that's something that we can all take an active role in assisting with. But when it comes to because I think we as a council and as a community pride ourselves on the level of care that we can receive here. It's top notch, it's state of the art. You can come here and have a baby, you can come here and have a colonoscopy. There's so much that you can do. Anyway, when you need those services provided for you. So how do we create the right conditions then to be an attractive center for physicians to come? I understand that the trust factor is hasn't been rectified properly yet. But as far as a municipality and the role that we play, how can we help facilitate the right conditions to be an attractive center for physicians to come and build their practice?
Yeah.
Siri, stop.
So that's, that's a question that I've been struggling with in preparation of this meeting, right? And I've anticipated that question is like, great, well, how do we fix this? Breeding more doctors would take a long time if it was a concerted effort. But what do you do? What do you do? I see what's happening in High River as a larger symptom of what's happening elsewhere in Alberta, and that's why I said, like, look, if so, Canmore is another community that's struggling with recruitment. Everyone's struggling with recruitment, but if High River is struggling with recruitment, again, a place that previously people had to fight to be working at, and so close to Calgary where our colleagues can commute from, that doesn't bode well for anywhere else, right? I don't know that there's a whole lot that can be changed. I really think our medical community and our hospital here are amazing. I think they're fantastic. I adore my colleagues. I think the nursing staff, the midwives, the physicians, the janitors, the lab staff, everyone that I work with, I think they're phenomenal. I think we have a great community when it comes to our medical community here. I think we have a beautiful clinic at the Charles Clark. It's a beautiful facility. It's a beautiful building. We have services like, the physicians pay for a gym that students can come and use. They take the monies that they earn from teaching students and they, put it towards, they give it to residents and students so that they can eat for free at the cafeteria. There's already a lot of great things happening, and we have a great community here. It's not that this is a undesirable community. It's not that we have toxic personalities or that this is an undesirable place. I think there's other communities who have struggled much more to recruit, who have done things like have a recruitment committee, and it's members of town council and the town and physicians that are trying to advocate and really reach out and target medical students or residents and say, hey, come here. High River's never needed that before. I think that's a short-term solution. I think the town could look at other options, like what the city of Lethbridge did. We had a third of the population of Lethbridge, which is the third largest city in Alberta, did not have family doctors because a lot of physicians were leaving or retiring or burnt out, or the same thing's going on here. And so they got together with Alberta Health Services, and through a concerted effort, they recruited a lot of international medical graduates. So physicians that have graduated from a different part of the world, and hey, we'll pay you a ton of money, come work in Lethbridge. And communities can do that. But ultimately, I see that as a stopgap measure. That's a short-term issue. Until you can start getting all of these physicians, like all these students that are being trained, 70 kilometers away, to consider this as an option, you can try and plug your finger in the dike, but it's not a long-term solution, right? And so I've really struggled with that question. What is something that can be changed? I don't know that anything needs to be changed or can be changed. I think we could look at other options like that, and that might lead to yield some short-term results. But ultimately, I think it's a symptom of something larger that until it gets fixed, this is going to be a conversation that's happening in other communities all throughout Alberta.
We got to get the doctors to choose to stay in Alberta first. Then we'll worry about what we can do. The work we're doing with Charles Clark Center and stuff right now, this council is deeply committed to the healthcare in our community, because that hospital is the cornerstone of everything that we have. Like it's our anchor, and we have to protect that. And you know, I want all of you to know how valued you are in this town, because like without that hospital, without the great people that we have working in it, High River is not the same place at all, not even on the radar. So we'll fight for you. We'll continue this on. Jamie, did you have something that you wanted to?
We've been into this for a long time, but my spouse is part of the AHS group, and I can tell you the culture in that organization has trashed in the last 3 to 4 years. It's gone way, way down, and it's a culture thing. I think is the biggest part, the biggest issue that we're facing. And to reiterate what Craig said, and what I wanted to say initially is that this council and everybody in the town appreciates all you doctors and everything that you do here, and I've had nothing but excellent, excellent treatment anytime I've had to go over to that hospital. So we really appreciate everything you do. I will say I'm starting to choke here a little bit from that candy you gave me, but I was told by a doctor here in town that new students, when they go to BC, are being offered essentially a sign-up deal of $125,000. Is that indeed correct?
I can't speak to, I'm born and bred in Alberta.
Yeah.
I've never lived outside of Alberta. I'm not leaving. And so I can't say that I've looked into the finances in the specifics of that deal, because quite frankly, it doesn't really interest me. Yeah, you
Right.
can pay me more money. I'm not, sorry, you're stuck with me in High River. But yeah, there is a signing bonus, and there are incentives to encourage people to sign up to accept new patients. And so what I have heard from colleagues who have friends who are looking to set up, who have not set up a practice somewhere, they've not put down roots somewhere. So there's something called locum physicians, okay? And they're essentially like substitute teachers for doctors, okay? So if Kelly and her husband want to go on vacation, you know, you try and find somebody to come and cover your practice while you're gone. And so if you're really lucky, and it's harder and harder to find, you might find a locum physician to fill in for you in your clinic. Or you might have some of these locum physicians or itinerant physicians providing coverage in certain areas. And over the last number of years, with a shrinking number of physicians providing full scope of practice here in High River, so wanting to take on patients, wanting to work in our hospital, we're relying more and more on these physicians, these itinerant physicians in our hospital. They live in Calgary. They might work in High River a few times a week. They might work in Strathmore a few times a week. They might go to BC for a month, or the Northwest Territories for a month. And you know, Calgary's their home base, but they're kind of moving all over. What I have heard is that this new deal in BC financially has been attractive enough to where a lot of these locum physicians who have never set down roots are saying it actually makes a lot of financial sense for me to go ahead and open a practice, accept patients into my practice, and set down roots in a community in British Columbia. So yes, I have heard there are significant financial incentives to that end.
Yeah.
What they are, I can't speak to the specifics.
Regardless of the money, if you're not happy, you're not happy.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to move on. Thank you.
Yeah, there's enough money in it that's not the deciding factor as to where you're going. Right? It's just, that's not it. There's systemic issues that we need to deal with first, so.
What I would say to that is, like, when you look at there's training sites all over. What people have said is that they would rather go to like very rural and remote northern Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Ontario than Medicine Hat. Like, those are the options. And the places in northern Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan are filling up, and Medicine Hat has not.
Wow.
Right, like that's what we're talking about here. Like the 3 vacancies in Ontario, like the majority of them, I think, were in Thunder Bay, which is not a terribly sought after place,
Yeah.
is my understanding. Never been. But
Okay. A lot of work to do. We got it started, though. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Okay, what do I do with my agenda now? Scribbled all over everything now. Subdivision application. Gennady? Dr. Taylor, Dr. Fay, you do not need to stay for the rest of this meeting. It'll drive you right up the wall. It's a painful.
The only other thing I would say is that, you know, we're happy to talk to you guys whenever. Like,
Okay.
we're happy to attend future meetings, if there would be benefit in like, a public town forum or something like that. We're happy to do that, but we, again, our medical community loves this town. We love our hospital. That's why we're here. We just need other people to join us.
Perfect. We'll help you out. Like I said, don't stay for the rest of the meeting. You're just gonna go get a drink or something. Okay, sorry, Gennady. Go
No
ahead.
worries. Thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon, Council. I'm here to request a decision for an extension request to a subdivision application at 68 8th Avenue Southeast. What happened is in 2021, we did issue a decision letter to the applicant for a subdivision, and we were just looking to receive an endorsement package, which we would be able to review and approve. The applicant had a year to provide such an endorsement package, and the deadline for that has passed on October 21st, 22. Since then, we have received an extension letter request, and it explained the rationale for not meeting it within that time frame. They prioritized other projects that they had in High River, but they are ready to go ahead and move forward with the subdivision application, as well as development on that site as well, that they do also have with the town, and would like for this extension request that they asked for to be granted. The council, as part of the Municipal Government Act, has this ability to grant extensions on a 1-year period, as per subsection 1 in the Municipal Government Act in section 657, and I'm here to seek that decision from you.
Okay, thanks, Gennady. Any questions from council? I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Kinghorn. The council grants the 1-year extension request by the applicant to submit subdivision endorsement package for review. This thing's too loud and it's driving me nuts, feeding back. For review and endorsement retroactively to October 1st, 2022, and further that the extension of the subdivision endorsement package will expire on October 22nd, 2023.
Yes.
You have my motion, Mayor Snodgrass. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? None? All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Gennady.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Welcome. Wastewater treatment facility upgrade.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I am here to provide an update on the status and the progress of the wastewater treatment facility upgrade project. The town is required by our Alberta Environment and Protected Areas approval to submit an application for an upgrade to our wastewater treatment facility that will meet current standards. This project was last presented to Council in the regular meeting on August 8th, 2022, with a request for decision on a scope change, which was approved to change the scope of the project from a pilot to a full upgrade. Since that meeting in August, a few scope changes have occurred and progress has been made on the project. So the most significant scope change since August is that administration decided to reevaluate the technology used in the design through a public procurement process. Following review of the proposals submitted through the procurement, the town has identified Veolia as the preferred proponent, and we will be using information from their system in the design for our submission to Alberta Environment. Administration is satisfied with the technical components of their proposal, and the estimated construction and life cycle costs of their system are lower than the previously preferred proponent. I also wanted to highlight that I do recognize that the cost estimates presented in this report are higher than the cost estimates presented to Council in August 2022. The main reasons for the increases have been, I think that is my cell phone ringing, which I did put it on silent, so I'm not sure what's happening there. The main reasons for the increases have been provided in the report and include they include increases to contingencies, allowances for removals of existing buildings and aeration equipment, and accounting for flood protection and escalation costs. These costs reflect a better understanding of the project as we move further into the design process. So I also have an exciting update that was not shared in the council report, as we were unable to share it until it was made public. This project is on the approved project lists for the Alberta Municipal Water and Wastewater Partnership Grant, funding for up to 30.68% of eligible costs, which is up to $11.75 million, based on the latest information that the town submitted to the province. Administration will also be reviewing other available sources of grant funding as well. We will be submitting the upgrade project application to Alberta Environment in the coming weeks. We are set to have it submitted by May 24th, which is slightly past the May 15th date in the report, and Alberta Environment has been updated accordingly on the minor delay. So that includes my presentation. Are there any questions from council?
Councillor Nychuk, thanks, Andrea.
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. Andrea, to you or to anybody that can answer. MagCan, isn't that the big ass building around town?
Yeah, so the
How
building.
How are we responsible for that?
The building that we're talking about is actually on our parcel. It's a building that was used as a filter building, which is no longer, it's basically dilapidated. So it's not the building in Foothills County.
We own it. It's not, yeah, I was confused. I was like, how are we getting saddled with this elephant that's out there?
Perked your ears up, didn't it?
Yeah, thanks. That's good.
Different building, but it was related to that
All right.
project, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No further questions. Great news on getting a grant for that. It's a big project, and thanks for the update.
Great, thank you very much.
Thanks, Andrew. Any reports from councillors? Random stuff. Board committee reports? Board committee minutes. External Water Board and the Airport Board minutes. Any public comments this time? Linda, Carol, nothing? You sure? Council correspondence requiring action, so letter of support request for the Highwood Centre. Pretty simple, it's just me signing a letter for their application. So I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Jones that council will authorize Mayor Snodgrass to sign a letter of support for the Highwood Centre's application for the Community Facility Enhancement Program. Small funding stream in the amount of $39,762.97.
I'll give you that motion, Mayor Snodgrass.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Then the other request that we have is for Loon Dafa Day proclamation and flag raising requests. My apologies, but I am not in favor of us making this resolution at all. I just don't think it's appropriate for us to be involved in any religious proclamations of any kind through the town of High River. So that's my thoughts. Any other thoughts on it? All good to move on? Thank you very much. Council correspondence for information, Habitat for Humanity. Thank you letter. We had a great lunch with the people that donated the lunch with the mayor. So thanks to Carol and Hal Knox for donating their time, and had a great lunch with them. So in that order, we will move into the in-camera session. So I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Smith that council recess the regular meeting of council and move in camera at 4:15 p.m.
I will give you that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried.